Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the meeting of the People and Health Overview Committee, Tuesday the 6th of February 2024. Before we start, if I could ask the members very briefly to introduce themselves, just so we're aware of who's in the room for those watching online.
Stella Jones, Dorchester East.
Morning, Chairman. Councillor Ryan Holloway, Wareham Ward.
Good morning. Rebecca Knox, Beaminster Ward.
Jean Dunseith, Chickrell.
Good morning. Anthony Alford from Egerton Ward.
Thank you, and I'm Mike Parks, Fernand North, and I'm also chair of the committee. If I could ask officers when they speak, if they can just introduce themselves first time around, that would be appreciated. Thank you very much. We'll move on to apologies.
Good morning. We have apologies from councillors Cathy Legg and Howard Legg. And Beryl Ezard will be joining online.
Thank you. Yeah, apologies, I forgot to introduce Councillor Ezard. Declarations of interest. So does anyone have any declarations of interest or anything on the committee this morning? I'll take that as a no. If anything crops up as we go through, please declare it and we'll note that down. Move on to the minutes of the meeting held on the 30th of November. They've all been circulated. Could I have a proposer and a seconder for those meetings? Proposed by Councillor Holloway, seconded by Councillor Alford. All those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you very much. I'll sign those at the end of the meeting. Public participation. There is a question from a Jenny Murray. She's not in attendance, and a written response to that committee will be provided by Councillor Haynes, the portfolio holder for corporate development and transformation, and that will be sent to the lady that's asked the question. Move on to item 5, which is questions from members, and we don't have any. There are no urgent items, so we move on to item 7, which is the programme and forward work plans. You've had that in your agenda pack. Does anyone have any comments on that? Okay, that's all noted. We look like we're going to have no work for the March meeting. So if nothing comes in within the next week or so, George is going to cancel that meeting because there's no point in meeting for the sake of meetings. We move on to the Families First for Children Pathfinder updates. This is an update presented by Paul Dempsey.
Thank you, Chair. Hello, my name is Paul Dempsey. I'm Corporate Director for Care and Protection in Children's Services. This is probably, I think, about the third progress update we've given to this committee on the Families First for Children Pathfinder. So I've got a bit of a slideshow to run through, just telling you progress made since the last report. So some background first. As discussed in previous sessions here, the Families First for Children Pathfinder is a key part of the government's implementation strategy for transforming children's social care across the country. The government strategy is called Stable Homes Built on Love. It was published in February 2023, and it was informed by the independent review of children's social care, which was carried out by Josh McAllister, which in turn was published in May 2022. So that's the history of this Pathfinder, an independent review, a government strategy, and now this Pathfinder, which is a test and learn approach to implementation. There are 3 local authority areas in the country that have been selected to implement this Pathfinder. Dorset obviously is one, and the other 2 are Lincolnshire and Wolverhampton. Next slide, please, George. This slide shows the 4 key reform strands in the Pathfinder approach. So that first pillar there is about developing multidisciplinary family help services. The whole strategy really is about supporting families earlier, and the family help space with multidisciplinary professionals in there supporting families early is a key part of the strategy. Second pillar is about developing deep integration of partners undertaking multi-agency child protection response where children are at risk. The third pillar, which we see as a golden thread right through the strategy, is about unlocking the potential of the wider family network. So nans, granddads, uncles, aunties, supporting parents to keep children at home. And the fourth pillar there about safeguarding partners is really about clarifying the roles and responsibility of safeguarding partners alongside social care, so police and health in particular, but also about enhancing the role of education as a key safeguarding partner. And the strategy does discuss the potential for making education the fourth statutory safeguarding partner alongside the current three, which is social care, health and police. Next. Thank you, George. So we've been in a period of co-design over the last 3 to 4 months, working with partners, children and families to develop our Pathfinder model. Some key bullet point things we've been thinking about there. Our model is accounting for putting children and families first in our design principles. We're making sure that our strengths are maintained, so we've been running a good service. We think that Dorset was selected to be a Pathfinder because the DfE recognised we were doing some good work, and the way we were set up aligns with the approach of the Pathfinder already to a certain extent. But we want to build. We want to do more. We want to build on the model we got and enhance provision. And we want to develop our workforce for the future to make sure it's ready for the challenges that come in for children's services over the next few years, and that it's ready to deliver our approach in the Pathfinder. Thanks, George. This slide really is a sort of bullet point list of the progress since I last reported here. So our delivery plan and costed plan have been submitted to the DfE and have been agreed. We secured total funding of 4.9 million for this Pathfinder from the DfE. The initial envelope for that was, the top end was 4.5 million. We went back to the DfE and asked for additional money. We said it wasn't enough, and we did get an extra 400,000. So we were pleased with that. Our enhanced locality model is finalised, and we are and will continue to communicate about that model with staff across February and March. And we are looking for a go-live date of April. We have started recruiting to new roles to support the delivery of the Pathfinder. The campaign is live, and we've already experienced lots of interest. Partners are fully engaged in the programme, and we do have some seconded leads, one from health and one from police, who are part of the programme team developing this approach. And as I said just earlier, that last point there, go live date, we're looking at April. We will be making sure that we go live in a way that is takes account of children and families' needs. So some things will be delivered perhaps before others. Some things will be more gradual. We're not insisting on everything going live on a particular day at sort of midday if it's not in the interest of children and families we're already working with. And then the next few slides are just going to tell you a little bit about our model, so briefly. So this slide is about the new family help space. The new family help space will be a merging of our work that we currently called early help and child in need work. So child in need work at the minute we do is like statutory social work, social workers undertaking that work, and our early help work, working very closely alongside children in need social workers in the same localities, is undertaken by differently qualified workers and isn't statutory social work. So those things in the government strategy have been merged, that space. We have developed in our model family help teams. We have multidisciplinary professionals in that family help service. We have specialist teachers. We have SEND provision leads. We have education psychologists. And we have a significant additional number of youth worker posts. All cases in the family help space will have social work oversight. We put in new assistant team manager posts in that space, and they will be social work qualified, so they will be supervising all cases. So even though many of those cases will not be allocated to a qualified social worker, they will have social work manager oversight. We will be enhancing our front door, so where concerns or requests for support from the public come into our services at our front door, or concerns raised by partner agencies, we will be making that a more integrated service. So our Dorset Education Advice Line, which is a separate service, we're putting that into our existing social care front door, so that's a one place that people can shop for education services, and we're also working with health colleagues to get the CAMS front door as part of that, our own front door service. We are working with the voluntary and community sector also, and investing some of the funds that we've been given in the voluntary and community sector to support community services to support families more. And we will be identifying, each caseholder will be known as a family help lead practitioner. That's the terminology that the DfE have given in their documentation. It doesn't have to be a council-employed person, doesn't have to be a social worker, could be a worker from a partner, could be a school nurse, could be a health visitor. So that's something that we're working very closely with partners on. So that's the family help space. It will sit side by side with our child protection space, which is on the next, thank you, George, slide. So key thing about the child protection space is that we will be seeking to integrate further with police, health and education colleagues. We are already working with adult services professionals in our Safeguarding Families Together model in our Chesil and our Dorchester and West localities. That is where we have mental health service professionals, domestic abuse service professionals and substance abuse service professionals working with our children's social workers to support parents with those challenges so that they can parent more appropriately and safely for their children. So we'll be rolling that out right across Dorset as part of our development of multi-agency child protection teams. Our most experienced social workers will be in that child protection space. They will be known as lead child protection practitioners. Again, that's new terminology identified in the government's strategy. We will have a dedicated resource from our quality assurance service to oversee and ensure quality and performance in the service. And as I say, they will sit very closely next to, in the same localities as our family help service, and work in partnership with them. And children moving on their journey, if they do need to move on their journey from family help to child protection, will maintain when they have a good relationship and when it's in their interest, for some time they will maintain the family help worker whilst they move into the child protection space, so that it's a warm handover and relationships aren't lost and momentum isn't lost. The next slide, thank you, sets out how we're going to work with family networks. A key part of the government's strategy is about introducing and making the most of family network decision-making mechanisms. And by that, they mean family group conferences, which we already use, and that is a mechanism for getting wider family together to facilitate them or to support them to develop their own family plans to support children in the wider family to hopefully stay at home and to be safe and to thrive. So we will be rolling out family group conferencing and making that part of our offer for every family who's receiving child protection services. And we will also be offering and promoting family network meetings for everybody who's receiving a service from us in the family help space. So similar types of meetings, both aimed at getting families together to develop their own family plans. Family group conferences a bit more structured than family network meetings. Family network support packages that you can see in that yellow circle there, we will be using part of our funding that the DfE have given us to support families with family network support packages. So that could be in the form of money, cash, financial sort of allowances to enable wider family members, grands, uncles, aunts, whoever in that wider family to support birth parents to keep a child at home, or it could be for a service or to buy some kind of good or piece of equipment that will support that family and enable a child to stay at home. A family must engage in one of those, either a family network meeting or a family group conference, in order to be able to obtain one of those support packages. Okay, the next slide discusses how we're looking at education becoming more of an enhanced safeguarding partner. So our Director for Education, Amanda, who's sitting with us, will become a member of our safeguarding partnership to represent education. We will be identifying nominated leads and delegates from the education community and various settings to sit on our subgroups of that partnership. And we are working now with education colleagues across Dorset and at our Dorset Education Board to establish relationships and talk to them really about how they see themselves being represented and playing a more enhanced role in our kind of safeguarding arrangement. So it's very much a test and learn approach. There's not very much in the strategy about how Pathfinder authorities go about enhancing the role of education, because I think the DfE is looking for us to be creative and develop ways. So, as I say, we're engaging with education partners and education settings to develop our model. The next slide just tells you where we're investing very briefly, and in summary, that 4.9 million. So some of it is in development capacity. It's been a lot of work engaging with partners, engaging with children and families, developing our model. So we got some programme costs and a programme team running that. Lots of the funding will be spent on additional posts. So there's been there will be significant investment in capacity. So I talked about youth worker posts. I think there's 14 youth worker posts. There's, I think, 15 new additional assistant team manager posts in the family help space. So giving us the capacity to support families earlier and more intensely. Some money will be used for training and development of staff. There'll be a significant sum spent on family network support packages, so that is money going to families, and we will be using some of that money to invest in the voluntary and community sector, because we see the VCS sector playing a key part in working with families, engaging with families, and funneling some of that money into those families so that they can support themselves. That's where the funding's going. And then the last slide is just some of the ways in which we're looking at workforce development there. So you can see some of that there. Group case supervision will be one of the things we'll employ on right across the service. That is where multidisciplinary professionals working on the same case with the same child and family come together and are supervised together by the same manager. So they're all working together, hearing the same things, having a group discussion. We're developing our learning and development offer. There'll be reinduction for all staff as we move into the Pathfinder model, and we're looking at developing an apprenticeship type training and qualification for practitioners working in our family health space, those that aren't qualified social workers. So that's a very quick whiz through progress and a little bit about our model in summary.
That's great. Thank you very much, Paul, for the comprehensive update. I'll take comments, questions from councillors, starting with Councillor Holloway.
Thank you, Chairman. First of all, very much welcome and very pleased to receive this morning. Very pleased that you managed to get obviously extra funding from the DFE, even though it is only 400,000, but it's still 400,000. How, as I say, it says on there, obviously there's expectation that there'll be an uplift to the settlement for next year. How confident are we that that uplift is going to be, shall we say, that promise met? Because, you know, what we don't want to do is, you know, it's great that we've got this funding and it's funded for 12 months, but we don't want to sort of say get 12 months down the line and then DFE is then suddenly changing its mind. So how confident are we that DFE is looking to obviously invest in this for the longer term, because that is what is vital for this? And just quickly add as well about the family support packages, that I think is quite a good idea, because lots of families don't always know what actually they're entitled to, particularly when it comes to financial support, especially if there's a sudden change of circumstances in the household where finances can come tight, and of course then it becomes a big problem. So that, I think, is very important. I think that we can help open doors to families and relatives to say there are other, obviously, financial supports out there. So that is really good. But yeah, sorry, back to my question, Paul. So yeah, how confident do we think that DFE is going to support this in the longer term? And, you know, and do we have a rough idea what the uplift is going to be for next year? Thank you.
We're obviously working with staff, senior staff who work for the DFE, in a sense. Politicians make the decisions at the end of the day, but this is a really important transformation of children's social care. We are testing and learning the approach, and it will be rolled out right across the country. There is an acceptance that there needs to be a new settlement for children's services in local government. As far as they can go, the DFE have, you know, said we're on a promise. They understand that we cannot deliver in this Pathfinder without the funding that we've been given, and that other local authorities, when they attempt to roll it out nationally, will not be able to deliver without additional funding. They know that we are recruiting to additional posts and that they are permanent posts, and as far as they can commit, I won't use the word promise, but commit to funding being around at the end of this programme, they have done that. I can't say that, of course, I've talked to a senior politician and we don't know who they will be in 18 months' time. So I've been as careful as I can to say the DFE have gone as far as they can to say that there will be another settlement for children's services.
Thank you, Chairman. I came across a bit of terminology that was new to me in reading this paper, namely kinship care. I did wonder why I hadn't come across it before, but decided to drill down a bit in the hope that I would find some understanding of what that really means or is all about, and also drill down to an understanding of how this policy will change the work that goes on there. So that's the general sort of theme that I'm looking at. Now, I did find a table on page 70 that gave some of the answers, so I thank you for that. But before getting to page 70, I was on page 68 when I saw this sentence. It said, to further bolster the family networks reforms, we intend to bring the SGO service that is currently delivered through the RAA in-house. Now, I've got to be quite frank and say, what is that all about?
Okay, so kinship care is terminology used to describe people in the wider family caring for children. So often it's grandparents, sometimes it's uncles and aunties, sometimes it might be a cousin or a sister. So when children cannot stay living with their birth parents, often kinship carers or members of family, wider family, care for those children. They're sometimes approved as foster carers. The terminology has changed. They used to be called kinship foster carers. In the legislation, they're now called connected persons foster carers because they could be members of family, i.e. kin, but they could also be friends. So the legislation uses the term connected persons to highlight that it's a connection. But kinship has been used interchangeably as well. The government has just produced and published in December a national kinship care strategy, so they're using that language again. And part of the pillar that I was describing just now about unlocking the potential of family networks is about making sure that those family networks help parents to care for children and keep children at home with their birth parents, but where that cannot happen, that wider family identify themselves as alternative kinship carers and take over the care of children. And they do that now, and some of them are kinship foster carers or connected persons foster carers. Others have been to court and acquired a special guardianship order, which confers on them parental responsibility for caring for that child. We are in an arrangement with Aspire, a regional adoption agency, which provides adoption services for us and BCP, local authority, Bournemouth, Christchurch and Poole. They also provide our special guardianship services. As part of this Pathfinder development, we are looking at enhancing our offer to special guardians, our offer of support. We are looking at streamlining our assessment processes. At the minute, some families have to undergo 2 assessments. They're assessed as foster carers because they might start off their journey as foster carers for a particular child in their family. And if and when they decide, often very quickly, that they want to obtain a special guardianship order, they're then assessed again by a worker from Aspire, the regional adoption agency. So in very quick time, they often experience, these families, 2 assessments by 2 different workers, essentially looking at the same thing. Are they suitable and safe carers for their grandchild? And we think that's intrusive. It's doubling up on resources, and it's not really a very good experience for families to have 2 assessments when they could have 1. So we're looking at, as part of our development, putting families first, we're looking at bringing that service back in-house and offering a better assessment experience and enhanced support.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Knox.
Thank you, Chairman. I was delighted to see the inclusion in the paper and the presentation of family help and family networks, which would include engaging with the voluntary and community sector. It's something that I have written into the cabinet member about, and thankfully he was extremely positive about this, and I think he was reflecting potentially what was going to be in this presentation today. What I would like to know, having a very, very keen and excellent community voluntary service in my own ward, which covers more than my ward, but my colleagues sitting to my left as well as others, when that engagement process will start, if it hasn't started already. can you give me a timeline, or have you already started engaging? And if you have, is there any detail of which voluntary and community sector organisations you are working with at the moment?
Yeah, we have started engaging. So VCS, or key members of the VCS sector, have been part of our co-design efforts and sit on our programme board. Our programme board has been meeting monthly to look at our progress in developing our model and to make key decisions. So I think there have been 2 VCS members on that board. One of the decisions that we made actually at that board was to, as well as adding our Director of Education to our Safeguarding Partnership Board, we have also decided that a representative from the VCS should also be a member of our Safeguarding Partnership Board. So discussions at that board and outside of those boards in our work streams have been ongoing about how we involve the VCS sector, particularly in relation to facilitation or distribution of those family network support packages. We still need to make lots more progress. My commissioning colleagues are sort of working with the VCS sector on that. So, yeah.
Can I come back, please? So if that work is ongoing and you have 2 members on the board, what actually is happening, action on the ground, and how would an organisation which is operating already but would like to have the opportunity to be commissioned by Dorset Council Children's Services to undertake some of this work, which perfectly reflects the work they're currently ongoing, how is that approach, or what is that approach going to be? Because board work is very different to actually getting work started in a local community.
I'll come in here. My name's Rebecca Watson. I'm the Family Hub Programme Lead at Dorset Council. And Family Hubs are very much seen as a delivery mechanism for much of the Families First for Children Pathfinder, particularly thinking about how we get that early support and family help out within communities. And I'm going to talk in just a moment about how we're developing our Family Hub approach, but it very much focuses on engagement with voluntary and community sector at a very local level. And we're using various different forums to enable that. One is via the local alliance groups, which are the operational arm of the Strategic Alliance, and they operate in each of our 6 locality areas, and they are representative of Dorset Council Health Services, but very much so of the local voluntary and community sector within those areas. And all of our Family Hub development is being led via those forums. We've also engaged very heavily with the 0 to 25 VCS Forum, which is an infrastructure organisation that support those delivering support and information to children and families through the voluntary and community sector. And we've run some recent workshops with them, really thinking about how they would like to be involved with this as we move the programmes forward, and thinking about how we can work with them in different and more effective ways in order to do exactly as Paul said, to devolve some of that funding out to the communities to enable that community decision making in the design of our programmes, but also in the delivery of provision. So I'll talk a little bit more to that in my presentation as well, but we've done some really great work and had some really good engagement from our colleagues across the sector.
Thank you. Councillor Jones.
Yeah, it's brilliant to hear that we're going to put children and families first. And I know the council has started doing work on that before, and that's why we've been chosen really to do the pilot scheme. But I am very concerned about the funding, which you've mentioned, that the funding will continue for a while and then stop. And it's supposed to be a national thing, and it's going to cost billions nationally to get it everywhere. And so I really am concerned that we're going to do all this work and it's not going to achieve a lot for everybody. And I'm also concerned about staffing. We know it's very expensive to live around here. Are we sure we're going to get enough people, practitioners as we're going to call them, to work here and stay here, because it is expensive to live here? And secondly, charities. Charities are all desperately looking for funds. And only recently, a big charity, West Dorset Home Start, had to fold, and that helped. It used to work with the council because it could get a little bit of funding from Dorset Council. But again, national grants, all charities are looking for the same money, and I'm concerned that we're relying on charities who may fold, and then we won't be able to do our work. So can you clarify both the staff and the charities, please?
Staff recruitment is a challenge sometimes, particularly for qualified, experienced social workers. We're probably in a better position than most local authorities. We have a campaign out now for a range of staff. We have had a lot of interest so far. That will always be a challenge. We are an attractive council to work for in terms of children's services. We're running innovative programmes like the one I've described that is attractive to staff. We're a safe place to work because we give good support, and for a social worker, it is an attraction to work in a safe place with good management oversight and support around you. So we are making the most of those kind of qualities and attractions to strive to attract the right staff and the right number of staff. But, you know, we do recognise that that is a challenge. We have less challenge sometimes with differently qualified workers, perhaps in our family help space. So I think we will recruit to those posts. The question about, was the next question about, I think I've answered the money question about the government.
About charities.
Yeah, the question...
Was helping charities, but they've still got the able to carry on.
Yeah, I guess in terms of our funding for charities in voluntary and community sector, we would, it goes to the sustainability of funding question that I think was at the start of your question, and we are expecting for funding to continue, which is why we're developing new posts and wholeheartedly going into this model, and when that funding continues, we'll be seeking to work with the organisations that are delivering good services on our behalf in communities. I don't know the situation with individual charities, so I'm not able to answer that. I don't know if colleagues particularly have a take on that.
Okay. Councillor Alford.
Yes, I wondered if I could make a further remark on the subject of finances, because I have a feeling somewhere there is an indication of the, I suppose, the financial support for running the project. I think it is in there somewhere. And presumably at some stage, the project will have to be evaluated. Is that timetabled? Sorry. Back on all of them. So there's a question of the overall project evaluation and whether the finance that has been given towards the project, how that has been used and how necessary it would need to be in an ongoing service. There is a few words in the paper that caught my eye, which says there are resourcing challenges, most notably policing. And it did make me wonder whether a conversation had been had with the Police and Crime Commissioner on this subject, and in what direction has that conversation developed?
Yes, so some of the funding, as I said, is being spent currently on development capacity. We won't need the development capacity forever. So that will be some of those costs will be non-recurring as we move through time. On the question of evaluation, the DfE has commissioned an evaluation partner. So they will be working in partnership with us and evaluating the whole programme over the next, 14 months to the end of 24, 25, and potentially thereafter. and that will be an evaluation of the impact on children and families, the experience of staff, the experience of children and families, and no doubt an evaluation of the costs and cost-benefit analysis stroke impact. Was there a further question? Oh, that one. Sorry. Yeah. Sorry, thank you. Yeah. So there are challenges in resources for partners. I think that Dorset Police is recognised as one of the poorest funded police organisations in the country, along with Lincolnshire, interestingly, who is one of the other pathfinders. That we have, or Theresa Levy, my Director, Children's Services, has discussed this programme and funding with Police and Crime Commissioner. We've also raised it with our DfE colleagues so that they can raise it with their partners in different government offices and hopefully have some leverage, because this programme is all about deeper integration and partnership, and we would like different government ministries to support the project. So we've raised it as an issue we'd like some help with. I think the DCS here has discussed it with Police and Crime Commissioner. So.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Holloway.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, sorry, just going back to picking up about, obviously, about policing and police, because, you know, it's good that, you know, as we say, we want to work closer with different organisations, but with the Police and Crime Commissioner, I know when he made a visit to my local town council back in December, I'm afraid to say the police do seem to be the weakest point in the chain, and that's probably is down to resources. So, as you say, you know, it is extremely important that, that obviously not only Dorset Police can obviously help get better resources and funding, because obviously at the end of the day, if we want different organisations to work together, we need to obviously make sure that those organisations are also properly financed and resourced as well. Because often when I talk to schools and obviously at my local youth centre, they always say to me that the police, unfortunately, does tend to be the weakest link in the chain, and that is, I think, something that we must, I think, strongly highlight, is that if you want these organisations all to work, you need to make sure that they're also backed up by finance and resources as well. So I would say, stress to officers, please do, continue to obviously have engagements with DfE, other organisations, and certainly with the Police and Crime Commissioner on that as well, because that I'm finding, particularly when I talk to the schools and things in my ward, they say that is the weakest link in the chain. Thank you.
Okay, I think we'll draw this one to a close. Thank you very much to Paul and his officers. Oh, apologies, portfolio holder to come in, sorry.
Sorry, Chair, I thought I would just catch right at the end of the debate there. There's just a few points I wanted to just mention from some of the comments. First of all, is to thank Paul and all the team in Children's Services and actually across all the partners, because they have been working together. Yes, there are always issues that officers are working through. I think it's a little bit unfair to point out a partner who isn't here to defend themselves and say that they're the weakest link, because there is a lot of recognition across Dorset that the police, and particularly from the Police and Crime Commissioner's view, is heavily integrated. I know at all the different panels, boards, groups that I attend, we very regularly have high senior police officers involved. But rightly, that's a question for the police, and there is a Police and Crimes panel which that point can be raised with the Police and Crime Commissioner. I think for overview and for looking how our officers are integrating this work for this committee or for the people of Dorset is to say that they are working with all partners. including the voluntary sector. We do have a mechanism in which voluntary organisations can go through and to apply to be commissioned. And I know I've had emails through, and I've asked officers to come back to members on that. Funding is always an issue, yes. I'll just highlight a point that I would like to make. With regards to ongoing funding, with anything can change, and we know that that's just the reality. However, the assurance or reassurance, however you want to put it, from the DFE is that they've actually signed off and acknowledged this process that the Dorset Council are working with, and then actually approved an extra funding. I wouldn't call £400,000 insignificant. I think it was a recognition that our officers weren't working to a budget, they were working to a delivery plan. And I think that's important to note in this, and that reflection of that going forward. And just to say, I know this is the third time it's come and this has moved at pace. And it is good that Dorset was selected for this programme, because taking from all our one council approach and also one partnership approach with all the partnerships outside of this organisation, Dorset Council, certainly Children's Services, were well on this process, so this worked well with us going forward. So I just thought I'd mention some of those points, just rounding up with some of the technical parts the officers have come back. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Councillor Ezard is online and wishes to speak, and this will be the last speaker on this agenda item. Councillor Ezard.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, you can. Thank you very much. I'm sorry, I've had problems with my Wi-Fi this morning and getting online. Yeah, what I wanted to say in defence of actually Ryan's quick querying about the police statistics. Yes, the crime commissioner was at the parish council or the town council in December, and his statistics did not actually reflect what the local community felt, and also the fact that there is a lack of officers on the beat, and we haven't had any officers at all that have come along to any meetings in the last couple of years, and yet we've asked them. So the commissioner was taking back our views. So all I wanted to say was in response to
This isn't really
well, in response to Byron, but I wanted to just say that. But yes, I wouldn't say they're the weakest link, but they do not always understand and have all of the information that they need. And a lot of that is their call centres problems. But anyway, never mind. I just wanted to mention that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Ezard. We'll move on. And again, I'll echo the portfolio holders' comments and thanking Paul and his team for the work that's gone into it. And no doubt we will see this back at another overview committee at some time in the future. We'll now move on to item 9, which is again presented by Paul, the Children's Sufficiency and Strategy 24 to 27.
Thank you, Chair. So this is our sufficiency strategy for children in care and our care leavers. We have a corporate parenting responsibility for children in care and our care leavers. And if the next slide just sets out that in legislation, we have a sufficiency duty. So every local authority in the country has to respond to the sufficiency duty, and that is that we have to provide sufficient care placements and accommodation for care leavers in our local authority area. And we have to set out a strategy that says how we will go about meeting our sufficiency duties. So this is our most recent strategy. And if you go to the next slide, George, I'll just give you a few numbers there to tell you about what I've called our care family. So our children in care, currently, the figures in the strategy you've got are a bit more than this, but I've given you this week's figures on the slide. So we currently have 450 children in care in total. 59 of these are unaccompanied asylum-seeking children. I'm giving you that figure because that has grown significantly over the last couple of years, and particularly since the summer, whereas the rest of our children in care population has been going down, our local population. And we have 542 care leavers. Currently 309 of those are receiving a service. So they don't have to receive a service. Those 542 are care leavers aged between 18 and 25, older young people between age 21 and 25. We will provide a service if they want a service from us. If they don't want a service from us, we won't be providing a service. So that's why there's a distinction in those numbers. And the next slide just sets out a number of achievements that we made from our last strategy. So we reduced the number of children in care. As I said, the children in care population has been coming down significantly over the last 2 or 3 years. We reduced the proportion of our children in care placed outside of Dorset. We increased the number of children's homes places in Dorset. We've increased the number of our children being cared for in in-house council foster care homes. We've implemented the Mockingbird model of fostering provision. This is a widely acclaimed evidence-based programme of fostering provision where foster carers work in a cluster to support each other, come from America. It's now being rolled out right across the country. It's been really successful here. We've got 4 clusters and it's enhancing placement stability and helping us to retain our foster carers. We implemented a new framework for supported accommodation provision for young people. We established our Harbour Adolescent Service, which offers educare services and a residential children's home. And as we've opened our own new children's homes provision and opened 12 self-contained care leaver flats at Kirtleton Avenue in Weymouth. So this strategy that we've got today is seeking to build on that success. We want to do more, we want to do better, and this is what this strategy is about. Similar themes, some of them to what were in the previous strategy. So we've identified 7 strategic priorities you'll see in the strategy, and I'm just going to run through them. First one is about supporting more children to stay with their birth parents or within the wider family. So that's replicating the kind of language I was talking about in the item just now in the Families First Pathfinder. So if more children stay with their families, that's less need for alternative care placements. We will be looking to increase the provision of local high-quality foster care, so more children that do have to come into care can grow up in families. Number 3, we will only place children and young people in residential care where their needs can't be met within a family, and where we do that, we want more of our children in residential care to be living in provision in Dorset. The 4th priority is about increasing and improving specialist provision for children and young people with significant mental health needs or complex needs. The next slide, thanks. Priority 5 is about securing timely permanence outside of care, either through adoption or special guardianship, for all children for whom it's in their best interests. The 6th priority is about really raising our ambitions for our care leavers and increasing the quantity, quality and range of care leaver accommodation and support, such that it promotes stability, safety and emotional well-being. And the 7th priority is more a means to an end. It's about managing our placement resources effectively. So those are the key strategic priorities. The next slide, the next set of slides, just go through those 7 priorities, telling you some of the key actions that we're going to undertake under those headings, but certainly not all of them. And there's a lot more in the actual strategy itself. So under that first strategic priority to support more children to stay with their birth parents, a key action we'll be doing is developing our Pathfinder model that I just talked about, because I mean, I hope I said that in the previous agenda item, but a key aim of that strategy is to support families really early, wrap around them, offer multidisciplinary professionals so that they don't get in crisis. When families get in crisis, that's when we're working with them in child protection spaces, or beyond that, children coming into care. So we want to support families really early so that we have fewer children coming into care, more children staying at home. We want to extend our Safeguarding Families Together provision, so that's our adult services professionals working with our children's social workers to support parents with mental health problems, substance abuse problems, and domestic abuse challenges. So we're going to roll that out right across Dorset. We're going to develop a Harbour East adolescent service. So our harbour service that I told you about, one of our successes in the last strategy, we want to replicate that in the East. The current harbour service is in Weymouth. And we'll be opening Hayswood Short Break Children's Home for children with a disability. So supporting parents of children with a disability to keep their children at home by provision of short breaks. The next slide talks about strategic priority 2, about increasing provision of local foster care. So we'll be implementing our new foster care recruitment and retention strategy. We will be targeting that strategy at particular types of carers who can care for adolescents, who can care for sibling groups, and who can care for children and young people with complex needs. We will be engaging in a Southwest regional initiative to develop a regional recruitment hub. That is another separate sort of pilot scheme that is being run as part of the government's implementation strategy for stable homes built on love. So we're engaged in that already. And that regional recruitment hub is basically about pooling resources of Southwest regions, pooling our marketing capacity and leverage to do all the best things about recruiting carers and working with local fostering services. And we will be providing capital funds for extensions and adaptations to foster care homes where it means that they can provide additional foster placements to children, or a particular example, for instance, to keep siblings together so that we don't have to split them up. We think that would be cost effective and in children's best interest where we can do that. The next slide is about strategic priority 3, which is about where we place children in residential provision, placing them locally. We will shortly be opening Chestnut House Children's Home for Disabled Children in Weymouth. We are just now looking to register a further 1-bed children's home in Dorset, run by ourselves, and we will be supporting the independent sector and commissioning them to develop more local provision. So as many of our children placed in residential care placed locally. Strategic priority 4 is about increasing provision for children with mental health needs or particular complex needs. We will be looking to work with regional partners and our health colleagues to develop residential provision for children with complex needs. And as part of our birth to settled adulthood service, we will be looking at developing a range of provision for young people, and the particular example there about expanding provision of shared lives carers for our young people. Strategic priority 5 is about securing timely permanence outside of care for adoption and special guardianship. So we will be supporting Aspire to implement a new adopter recruitment strategy. Again, that will be a targeted strategy, targeting adopters for sibling groups, older children, and children with disability or complex needs. Those children are the groups of children that often wait longer to be placed for adoption because it's tends to be more difficult to find the right adopters for those groups of children. As discussed in the last agenda item, we will be bringing our special guardianship service back in-house from Aspire as part of our new connected person service, and we think that we can offer a significantly enhanced service that way. And we will be supporting wider birth family members to secure special guardianship orders for children early on, where it's in those children's and family members' best interests. Priority 6 is about provision for our care leavers. So the 3 bullet points there, one of them is about supporting more foster carers to provide stay and put accommodation. That is where a young person who's living in foster care turns 18, their carer can agree for the young person to stay there under what's called stay and put arrangements. So just like a lot of young people, when they turn 18, when they're grown-up parents, don't have to leave. Our children in foster care can have that same opportunity, and they can be in stay and put provision up to the age of 21, and we support those carers to keep offering that provision. We will be embedding Stay Close as a wraparound support offer for more of our care leavers. So we currently have a Staying Close project at the minute that is being funded through a DFE, Department for Education grant. That is about supporting children who've been looked after in residential care to have a support of people they know, residential workers, around them after they leave residential care and go into care leaver accommodation. So it's an attempt to replicate stay and put foster care arrangements, but for children that aren't in foster placements when they turn 18. So we look to keep the people that have been caring for them close to them after they leave that residential children's home. The third one there is that we will be looking to bid for capital funds to acquire or build up to 20 additional self-contained flats for care leavers. I said one of our successes in the previous strategy was developing 12 self-contained flats at Kirkleton Avenue in Weymouth for care leavers. It's a fantastic facility. It's within our control. It means that we don't have to evict children like some organisations do for minor misdemeanours. It means that young people can have pets there. It means that we can offer really good wraparound support there. It's really good provision. We want to do more of that. It's really working, and some elected members, in fact, I think, have been shown round and been really impressed. So more of that is a key part of our strategy for care leavers. Seventh strategic priority is really about our management and oversight of placement resources. So we'll be reviewing and revising our placement resource panels to improve management and review of placements, just to make sure we are robustly managing our resources as best we can, and that we're achieving best value for money from our placements, both our in-house ones and our commissioned placements. We will be improving our referral pathways, so social workers referring in for placements. It's a smooth process, and we get quality, high-quality referrals. And we will be improving our data collection, so we've got a really tip-top kind of oversight of our children in care, where they're placed, the quality of provision, and the performance in placement services. And then the last slide sets out some of the things we'll be looking at to see whether we've been successful in delivering this strategy. So I'll just run through them. If we are successful, we will have a lower number of children in care. That has been coming down. It's one of the successes of the last strategy. More of our children in care will be in foster placements. Fewer of them will be in residential placements. And for children that are in residential placements, more of that group will be living in Dorset provision. A higher proportion of children will leave care via adoption or special guardianship. and no care leavers will be in bed and breakfast accommodation, and we'll have more of our own provision for care leavers.
Thank you very much, Paul, for that. I'll take comments and questions from members, starting with Councillor Holloway.
Thank you, Chairman. First of all, very pleased to see that we're obviously enhancing more of our support for care leavers. I think that is really good news, and I certainly welcome that. Just going, sorry, about the self-contained units. Have we actually put in a bid for that yet? And also, have we identified any sort of particular land in Dorset that we think that we want to build? Because I only speak from that because obviously we've got obviously some of the self-contained units obviously in my ward in the former Wareham Middle School, and so far they've been proving to be quite popular and successful. So have we ever identified any other potential piece of land in the county that we think that we can use to develop additional units? Thank you.
No, it's all work to do. We just drafted the strategy. We've seen the success of Kirtleton. We're looking to build on that. So yeah, very, very open to suggestions of appropriate spaces and places, but no, that's work to do in terms of the capital securing it.
Thank you. Councillor Jones.
Yeah, I think the staying put idea is very excellent, and hopefully we can encourage more foster carers to carry on with it, and presumably they get extra funds to do this. Can I also ask, you said at the beginning that we've got 542 care leavers and only 300 of them are getting a service. Are the other 200, are they at university? Have they got jobs? Are they working? Are they living by themselves? Or they are in bed and breakfast? Where are these other 200 that are not now in the staying put?
Yeah, so the young people that aren't receiving a service are those young people aged between 21 and 25. Our responsibilities are to provide a service for them if they ask for a service. We do have to provide a service 18 to 21. Some of our young people receiving service are in that age bracket from 21 to 25, but that's their choice if they come to us and ask for a service. And some of those will be in contact with and know about what they're doing and where they are, and others we won't know where they are and what they're doing. And it's their choice really about the amount of contact and whether they want a service from us. So that was a new requirement to offer a service for young people care leavers aged 21 to 25 that came in a number of years ago.
I check then that 18-year-old care leavers are usually monitored, and it's when they get to 21 that they might go off the radar.
Yes, 18 to 21, monitored. They all have a personal advisor. They're all managed, oversight by the care leaver managers. We are working to ensure they're in appropriate accommodation. We are supporting them to engage in education, employment and training. We are in contact with them. We largely know where they are. So yes, we support young people in university. Some people are in staying put. Not all of those 309 are in staying put arrangements, staying put fostering, just to be clear.
When they're in bed and breakfast?
Yes, I think this week there are 5 young people in bed and breakfast accommodation. We don't think that is very good. We want there to be no young people in bed and breakfast accommodation. That's a key success indicator of our strategy in that priority, strategic priority for care leavers. It's one of the reasons that we think we need to offer more of our own provision, because invariably those young people who are in bed and breakfast are those young people with significant challenges and vulnerabilities, who don't fit into the range of accommodation that is on offer, and where we can offer our own provision that we are in charge of, it's easier for us to accommodate those young people that present those challenges and have those vulnerabilities. So that's been the driving force for that strategic action to either build or acquire up to 20 care leaver flats for children's services to manage.
Thank you. Councillor Dunseith.
You say on page 84, we have increased the number of children's homes places in Dorset from 16 to 30. Is that you could accommodate now 30 children in residential care? Is that correct? Please.
That's a mixture of additional provision that we created from opening our own children's homes and working with independent sector providers to open and provide more residential children's homes beds in Dorset. So that is a mixture. Some of those commissioned placements from the independent sector have reduced over recent months. So that I think it does say that somewhere in the strategy that we've lost some of the independent sector provision more recently. So part of the strategy moving forward will to be engaged with the market again to look at them providing additional provision.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Batstone.
Thank you, Chairman. Apologise for being late this morning. It was a combined effect of people having accidents in front of me and a tractor that took all the way to wend its way gently along the top road. It's all good fun. A point about the bed and breakfast, which is a minor point in the way the direction is going. At least we're reducing the amount of bed and breakfast we use. With the folk we are using as bed and breakfast providers, are those purely, in a sense, commercial arrangements? Or I was very aware when I was working, you had some folk who offered bed and breakfast. Actually, they were more like a foster placement, but it happened to be a bed and breakfast arrangement. What support do we give any additional support to young people in B, and it B, how do we check it out? Because it can be a very supportive experience, or it could more likely be a very lonely experience.
No, I don't think they are more like foster carers. They're more like commercial operations, but we do wrap around the young people. We do extra contact from their personal advisors. There's extra management oversight and supervision from the managers of the personal advisors, and we're looking for multidisciplinary professionals to wrap around those young people as well. So if they've got health needs or adult services needs, often be working with adult services colleagues as well. So we're looking to wrap around them. Every young person who finds themselves in B&B, we will develop straight away an exit plan. So we are working on how are we going to move that young person out of that arrangement to something much better. And the managers and the team around that young person will be working to make that happen as quickly as possible.
Thank you. Councillor Quayle.
Thank you, Chair. If you indulge me for a minute, I just thought I'd give some of my experiences, because it touches on a point that was raised earlier about our care leavers and once they turn 18. I think we're very fortunate in Dorset, or certainly with our offices, or certainly the culture that has been built within children's services, that I heard a conversation between one of our young people and one of our officers the other day, who was effectively talking about the future and their aspirations. And I was particularly taken by how engaged our officer was in looking at that young person to say that what they were saying really mattered. What they did in the next 5, 10, 15 years really mattered, not just to that particular officer, who's fantastic, by the way, a real asset to Dorset young people, but it builds on a culture that I have found in children's services. People just think that cabinet members there to clash with Teresa on or challenge officers, which I'm more than happy to do. But I've been really impressed by the culture that has been built in and that is reflected onto a lot of our young people. And I think it's really important that we talk about these hard numbers, don't we, in committee meetings, about 18, and then, responsibilities end here and another responsibility picks up there, and it's very cold, and it totally flies in the face of actually what I find is being delivered on the ground, and I think it's fantastic. And it was a particular point last week, and that's what builds into all the stuff. So when officers come through and you see all these reports that come through there, with all the issues that we face, political issues, financial issues, all the sort of stuff that we as councillors are expected to raise, is the story behind. And it's a good story, I think. Of course, that's my opinion, but even if I wasn't the cabinet member for Children's Services, it's why I wanted to get involved in Children's Services in the first place in Dorset. And I think that shows about us and all the good stuff you've seen, all the stuff we invest in, and all that sort of stuff that is just black and white on a piece of paper, actually has an impact. And if we wanted to be brutal about it, you could say all the work that we then do saves money for us in the future. I mean, that's the simple reality, and that's the question that's a point that we maybe talk about in the back corridors and stuff like that. But the importance for me is the culture that is built into Children's Services, that all of this delivers. And you'll see all these reports and all these different panels and groups, they all intermingle somewhere or interlink somewhere. And I just thought, I do apologise for going on, but it builds exactly to the point both councillors were mentioning about, what do we do afterwards? And I think there's corporate parenting. I mean, a lot of people don't realise we are all corporate parents, and that doesn't end at 18, as being a parent wouldn't end at 18. And building that culture into the young people that we are fortunate to have in our to be with us is really important, because that builds their future for their future. And I just wanted to again thank officers for that, because we know our officers go above and beyond quite often to deliver on that.
Thank you. If there's no more comments, then I need us to recommend to Cabinet that we approve the sufficiency strategy and related action planning. Could I have a proposer for that, please? Councillor Batstone, a seconder, please. Councillor Holloway. All those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you very much, members. We move on to item 10, which is the Equality, Diversity, Inclusion Strategy. So as agreed with senior officers and with Councillor Jill Haynes, who's the portfolio holder for corporate development and transformation, the EDI strategy and action plan will be deferred for discussion at the People and Health Overview Committee later this year. The reason for this is that officers have recommended waiting for the Department of Education's current consultation on gender questioning children, draft schools and colleges guidance to be completed and their report published, so we can consider the finalised guidance and align Dorset Council's position appropriately. Okay, thank you. We'll move on to item 11, which is the Family Hub Network Development, and that's going to be presented by Rebecca. Thank you.
Sorry, thank you, Chairman. Morning, everybody. As introduced earlier, my name is Rebecca Watson, and I am the Programme Lead for Family Hub Transformation at Dorset Council. Just bear with me a moment while I make that a bit bigger. There we go. So as you may be aware, Dorset Council, as with the Pathfinder, was selected to be part of a transformation programme led by the Department for Education. And the programme aims to test approaches to implement family hub models in local areas. And for those of you that may not be aware, a family hub essentially is a single place or space that families can go to access advice, support and information on a range of services delivered by a range of different organisations or service providers to meet whatever need it is that they might have. And the Family Hub approach really aims to address what we know can still be a challenge for families in knowing where to go to access that advice and support, and to be able to access it in a way that is timely and responsive and without stigma. So being able to feel connected to support within their local area in places that they feel welcome and are able to be supported at the earliest point. Family Hubs really aim to provide support for families right across the age range. So we're looking at support and information for families from conception right up to the age of 18 or up to 25 if it's for a child or young person with a special educational need or disability. And we know that families can find that difficult. So what Family Hubs really aim to do is bring those organisations together into a single access point so families aren't being referred from service to service, and they know that when they step into a Family Hub or access a Family Hub online, they'll be connected to that support quickly and easily in order to get the information and support that they need. And I think it's just important to say, following on from Paul's agenda item earlier around the Families First for Children Pathfinder, we very much in Dorset see Family Hubs as a part of that wider transformation for children and families. So really thinking about how Family Hubs can provide that physical delivery of early help and family help within communities. So thinking about how all of the things that Paul was talking about that the Pathfinder are aiming to achieve can be delivered and seen at that very local level for families. So as we're starting to think about developing our approach in Dorset, we're thinking about particular needs of some of the families we serve. And one of the things that's been very apparent in some of our early conversations is we know that there are some particular challenges for families living in parts of Dorset Council area, whereby the rurality of their community and some of the challenges around transport and access can be a barrier to accessing information and support. So we've been very mindful of that as we're developing our Family Hub approach, thinking particularly how we can enhance our offer through online information and support for families, but also creating an approach that addresses some of those challenges. We're utilising an asset-based community development approach to our Family Hub development, and that's really thinking about how we can build on existing community assets and strengths that we know exist within local areas, so that we're able to build capacity and resource at that very, very local level. And I was very interested to hear the questions earlier around the engagement with the voluntary and community sector, because that's very much a thread running through our Family Hub development, really thinking about how we can use this as an opportunity to support those more local organisations and to, as we've mentioned in the Pathfinder, also really bolster that offer at a very sort of local community level. So as part of the programme, we've committed to open at least 8 Family Hubs across the county, and we're looking at opening at least one of those in each of the 6 locality areas that we manage our children's services within, which I think you'll all be familiar with. So our localised approach to the development of Family Hubs through those locality areas has really been led by the local alliance groups. And as I mentioned earlier, they're the strategic arm of, the operational arm of the Strategic Alliance. And they're established forums that allow and enable contribution from a range of partners delivering support and services within a local area. And they're really well represented, particularly by our voluntary and community sector. But we also have engagement of some of our statutory partners, so our health colleagues that are responsible for delivering in those local areas. And Dorset Children's Services locality teams also sit as part of those, alongside some councillors and other stakeholders within the community. So it's a really great forum that enables that real local knowledge and information to be shared to support us as we develop approaches that are in response to very local needs. So as part of the process of engaging with the local alliance group members, we've undertaken some specific activity which has helped us to identify where our Family Hubs will be located. And in doing that, we've mapped the existing places that we know that are operating within those local areas, and that we know that families already access advice, information and support. That's included community-owned and managed buildings, such as community centres or village halls. And it's also included our Dorset Council managed buildings, so including our existing children's centres, and really importantly, our libraries. As you may be aware, the library have recently implemented a new strategy, and as part of that, they're thinking about making best use of their spaces. Often these library spaces are located in really central, really easily accessible places within our communities, so they serve as a great point to deliver a range of services and information. So really thinking about how we can make best use of those as we develop our Family Hub model. So we've identified a number of main Family Hub sites, which I'll share with you in just a moment. But whilst going through that process of looking at feasibility of sites and premises, we've identified a real opportunity to be able to develop a network model where we have an increased number of delivery points made available through those places and spaces that I've just talked about, to ensure that we can reach out to families as far and wide as we can and ensure that there are accessible and identifiable spaces within all communities that families can go to if they require information and support. So on the screen here, you'll see a map. The purple circles there identify our main Family Hub sites. And when I talk about a main site, we have some specific requirements from the Department for Education of what needs to be provided within a main Family Hub site. They provide us with a range of different services that we need to ensure are accessible through those buildings, and also to ensure that those sites offer a warm welcome to families, that there are staff there that are able to connect families to information and support. And what you'll see from the blue spots on the screen is the range of other community network points that we've started to identify through this mapping process. They're predominantly libraries, but also included in there are some community centres and village halls. And as we continue to develop the programme, we'll be looking to identify more locations that can form part of our network. And when we talk about being part of a network, it's very much around connection. So it's thinking about how we as service providers delivering support to children and families can better plan and coordinate our delivery to ensure that there is accessibility across the range of different places, and that we can be confident that we have staff and volunteers in some of those other outreach type points that have good knowledge of support and information to give to families. And even if a provision isn't available there directly on site, that we have confidence that a family dropping into one of those network points can be well connected to the information and support they need. So our network approach really does give a good spread across the Dorset County area in the hope that we can improve access to that information and support for all of our families. So through the development of our network approach, we hope that we will be able to increase those numbers of safe and welcoming places that families can recognise and identify with to access support. We think by doing that, we can improve access to and take up of services and support for babies, children, young people and their families. That we can build capacity and resource within local communities. And we're really thinking about how we can develop community and parent-led approaches to support to be delivered through our family hubs. And Paul talked just earlier around the additional funding coming through the Pathfinder programme to enable that. And as I mentioned, we're using family hubs as the vehicle to be able to devolve that funding and to provide the facility for some of those new and developing provisions to run from. So that's a really exciting approach, and we're really, really happy that we're able to offer some additional resource to enable that to happen. We feel that through the development of this network approach, we can support more effective coordination across some of our service delivery partners. We've got really good examples of where that's happening at a local level through the local alliance groups, where services are becoming more aware of one another, being able to identify opportunities to work more closely together, and also where we're able to identify potential gaps in provision that we can work together to address. We think that this approach will continue and support the strengthening of some really, really effective working relationships that we have locally. And by providing this approach, we think that it will offer enhanced opportunities for those joint workings and for that joint working and for the relationships to develop even further. And we feel that we're able to make the most effective use of Dorset Council's asset base through the development of this model. So as you will have noted in the report, we are coming with some recommendations that will allow us to continue to develop our family hub model, and particularly thinking about the point that's been mentioned quite a lot throughout this morning's sessions around sustainability. We have some grant funding that supported us by the DFE to develop and mobilise our family hubs, but we want to ensure that we're able to really sustain this model beyond this grant funding period. And there are some things that we think we can do that will enable and support us to do that. And so our recommendations are firstly for us to think about working towards a strategic agreement with our colleagues in library services to enable effective use of those premises for the delivery of children and families information and support. And we see that that can be managed through Dorset's effective property services approach, which is being implemented across our libraries. And we see a real opportunity there to think about how we can work to best effect across those spaces. And the other recommendation is that for some services that we have identified that are currently operating in some of our children's centres, they are relocated into some of our new Family Hub network points. And that will ensure that the services are able to continue within that local area. We will not be reducing or taking away any service provision, but it will allow them to be delivered within those Family Hub network points, which offers the benefits of that integration across other service providers, and would also give the option for some of those spaces to be repurposed in line with Dorset's asset decision-making process. So that brings me to the end of the presentation. I've just also shared a couple of lovely comments that we've had from families who have been accessing the emerging family hubs, because I think there are some really, really strong and powerful thoughts there coming from families around how family hubs have really enabled them to feel connected, how they've supported them at times that they've needed that advice and information and not known where to go, and what it's meant to them in terms of the benefit of that. Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you. Take questions and comments from members, starting with Councillor Batstone.
Thank you, Chairman. As I did alert you, I am at this point in time acting as your substitute, Councillor Lugg. And Councillor Lugg, who couldn't be here today, asked if I would raise an issue which causes her considerable concern. And that is there's an issue with disparity in the financial models of the family hubs. Each family hub will serve different areas and have different priorities for their location according to what their families need. In East Dorset, we have a family hub in Wimborne in Lye Road and the centre in Trickett's Cross. The Wimborne family hub is a Dorset Council-owned building run by Dorset Council staff. The centre is run by a community company. Wimborne can offer rooms for free, Ferndown have to charge, and naturally partners looking at their budgets will choose Wimborne, leaving Ferndown unable to get the partners they need to be engaged. Councillor Lugg understands that Councillor Quayle is also concerned about this, as Blandford is to have a hub which will be affected. This will be duplicated throughout the county, not only with Dorset Council-owned buildings, but different organisations running the family hubs will have various funding models. Some will offer rooms for free or at low cost, others won't. It means that some hubs may fail, not through lack of intent, but due to financial pressures. Therefore, the question is, are there robust plans to ensure that the family hubs have an equally funded model with other hubs in the area? Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry. Thank you for your question, and I'm aware of the situation you refer to in the East locality. Just to add a little bit further context to that particular question, our preferred model for development of family hubs are that they are built from existing community centres and buildings and led by voluntary and community organisations where possible. However, in a couple of instances, whilst we've been working through that process of site feasibility, we have identified that the most appropriate place for the hub in a particular local area may be the existing children's centre, because many of them have really good integrated service offers and have purpose-built buildings whereby families are currently accessing advice and support. So we are proposing 10 different family hubs. 2 of those currently we are looking at Dorset Council Children's Centre buildings. Now, historically, those children's centres have offered space free of charge to service providers. Part of the statutory offer for children's centres was around the integrated health provision, and so some of our partners, such as health visiting and midwifery, have had a historical arrangement whereby they have delivered in those spaces free of charge. When we're developing the VCS-led family hubs, working with voluntary and community partners, we've been working with them to establish financial models and business plans to enable them to sustain the hubs beyond the grant-funded period. and those are dependent on income from rental charges. We have acknowledged that that is causing a challenge, and we have revised our budget to enable some additional funding to support the VCS-led organisations so that we can offer space free of charge to some of those providers as an interim measure. But we're very much looking around our sustainability plan going forward. And as the report suggests, there are some things that we want to start to do in order to develop that, starting with the recommendations that we've placed within the report, but very much looking at how we work more closely with our partners from across the range of services, particularly our statutory service partners, and thinking about how we can work together to secure the longer-term sustainability of the Family Hub model. We think it's absolutely the right approach, working with our voluntary partners, but exactly as has been echoed by colleagues in the room today, we need to ensure that that can be sustained beyond. So the next steps of our development are to implement a sustainability strategy that will cover off some of the things that we're starting to see emerging at that local level and try and mitigate against any future challenges.
Thank you. Councillor Knox.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Rebecca. And I think what is outlined here is absolutely spot on, but I am going to ask for a special request in that on the last page of the report, 207, you do list the hubs and what I see is the hub, the network, the spokes. I am going to talk about my ward because I'm quite passionate about it and have been for a long time. Beaminster Library is mentioned. If one has ever been to Beaminster Library, it is the last place you would go in order to actually receive and want to receive information. It's fantastic for some, but it really isn't for this type of service. Yet down the road, you have a building called the Prout Bridge building, which is actually DC owned. It is currently, you're nodding, so you know absolutely what I'm talking about. I am really surprised that is not on this list. And since this is a proposal to Cabinet, I would like to receive some assurance, if at all possible, that that will be looked at before a final agreement is made, because this is sort of not making sense when that library is costing Dorset Council money and could actually move into the very successful Prout Bridge project building. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for your question. And you're absolutely right. We are aware of the Prout Bridge project and have had some very early conversations with them. I think it's very important to note that we're developing our family hubs on a locality by locality basis, and we're more developed in some than we are in others. So some of that work around identifying additional network points is still underway in some of those locality areas. So what you see within the report is our current position, but it's very much a work in progress, and we'll be continuing to add places and spaces to that network as we continue the conversations. But we have been in touch with Prout Bridge Youth Project, and they are very keen to continue conversations, so we will absolutely be including them and many others in the plans as we develop going forward. Sorry.
Thank you, and I'm really pleased to hear that. This is a public document, and it doesn't say that. And if one was living in an area where there was actually those ongoing discussions, I think they'd be feeling what is happening here. It's not quite saying what the intention is going forward. Perhaps that more fluid approach could be put into whatever goes to Cabinet, so that people don't feel that they're just being totally excluded at this time. And I'm not talking about just the director or whatever it is of the organisation. I'm talking about all the young people who access places now. If they're not on the list, they might feel that their place is coming to an end, and that would be a great shame, considering that loads of them are crowdfunding and doing all sorts of things to try and maintain their sustainability at the moment.
I think that's a helpful consideration. Thank you.
Liz Crocker, the head of libraries, was indicating online that she might want to speak. I'm guessing it's related to this.
So sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, we can,
Yeah, perfect. Apologies, I'm sorry to not be there in person. I'm currently battling a cold, which I'm sure the entire of Dorset has also got. So I just wanted to come in response. Absolutely take on board the point around Bedminster. I think Councillor Knox and I both know that it's quite compact. I just wanted to reassure around the inclusion of all of our library sites reflects a basic kind of core offer that would be available across all of them, mostly reflecting the trained staff able to signpost really effectively and deliver that kind of first point of contact support, and then also some supported access to the digital family hubs offer, which through our free public access computers we know that we can provide across all of our sites. But I do appreciate further work and we'll take on board the points Councillor Knox makes, and we're working very closely with Rebecca looking at how we can refine that offer in light of so enhance it where those libraries allow, and recognise where we will be offering that basic offer where those libraries aren't conducive to that enhanced level of support. Thank you for allowing me to come in.
Thank you, Liz. Move on to Councillor Jones.
Yeah, mine was a similar question about using libraries. You did say you need a safe and welcoming place for the hubs to be, which is good. Most libraries are safe and welcoming, but you also need somewhere where families feel they can go in and discuss confidential items without other members of the public being aware. And I think that's very important, that there should be space where they feel they can just talk about what they need to talk about, and not have everybody watching them. So perhaps you could make sure that happens in all of them. I don't know how. And can you also tell me its time scale? Because we've been talking about these hubs for a long time, and we were told the Dorchester hub was going to be last summer, and then it was going to be before Christmas, and we're still waiting for these things. And the third question, completely different. When we finish using the children's centres, can we repurpose them? Say the Dorchester Children's Centre, could that be repurposed for care leavers accommodation, maybe?
Thank you, Councillor Jones. And your first two questions actually align quite nicely together. Absolutely important that the family hubs that we designate have specific spaces that enable the provision of information support in a way that is confidential, and that parents feel that they're able to have those open and honest conversations with staff or volunteers. So absolutely, as we are developing our family hub spaces, we're looking at some specific requirements that they will need to have. And that links very closely to the question around Dorchester Library. We have identified that as a potential family hub space, but we acknowledge that there are some specific adaptations that might need to be made there in order for that to be a suitable space, exactly as you've just said, around having some of those confidential spaces. So we have been working to look at the opportunities to reshape some of that space in order to ensure that we can offer exactly that, hence the slight delay in time frame there. But we are looking to have 8 family hubs open by September, at least 8. We currently have 4 that we have designated, so another 4 will be coming on board over the spring and summer this year. And then 2 more will be coming on board slightly later within the year. So we will be able to achieve our commitment to opening 8 within the grant-funded DfE transformation programme, but looking at the other 2 maybe taking slightly longer. And the reason that we are taking time with that is because we acknowledge the real importance of doing that local engagement work, and actually it does take time to do that. So what we want to do is make sure that we're able to get representation from those that are delivering services within communities, but also from the families that may be using the family hubs. So as we're developing proposals, as we will be for Dorchester, once we've refined what that could look like, we'll be going out and testing with families just to make sure that they feel that that is a suitable proposal for their area, and to give any input into how they think or what they think we should be considering as we continue to develop the family hub within that particular local place or space.
Thank you. I think Liz Crocker wanted to come back in on that one again.
Sorry, it was just to absolutely recognise that our library buildings are varied, and what can be what might be appropriate to deliver out of those sites will vary, and that's why we're undertaking kind of the asset review in collaboration with Children's and our assets and regeneration colleagues to look at what sites are suitable for the different service offer across the network. And that work's underway, but not yet concluded. Thank you.
Thank you, Liz. I'm not sensing any more comments. We need to put this forward as a recommendation to Cabinet that the proposed development of Dorset's Family Hub network be approved, but I think we caveat that with the various comments around the library involvement in this. So if we're happy with that extra little bit on there, could I have a proposer that we recommend this to Cabinet, please? Thank you, Councillor Alford. A seconder? Councillor Dunseith. All those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you, Rebecca. Okay, there is no exempt business. So thank you very much for your participation this morning, and I close the meeting at 11:46. Thank you.